Hello, everybody. My name's Rick McCutcheon. I'm a Dynamics 365 MVP, and I'm here on this MS Dynamics World Click Learn Expert Panel talking about Dynamics 365 F&O, Finance and Operations, and let's talk about digital adoption best practices. We've got a great lineup of speakers today, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves. First, we'll start with Jenna.
Hi, my name's Jenna Hamilton. I'm a customer success manager at ClickLearn. So I've been with the company for just over a year now, and I spend the majority of my time talking to our customers who are usually at some phase in the journey of implementing a new software system, whether it's been a year or they're getting it started up. So I'm talking to people all the time who are going through their digital adoption, and happy to be here and also to hear from Sim and Khaled, the experts on the panel.
Okay, Jenna, thank you. Sim.
Hello, welcome. My name is Sim Fransen. I live in the east of the Netherlands. I'm an independent freelance senior finance consultant, also Microsoft certified trainer. We're mainly working in the German-speaking part of Europe, also in the Benelux, working on big international companies and projects, and quite some experience in Dynamics 365.
Okay, thank you. Khaled.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I'm the CMO at Binary Stream. I've been able to interact with a lot of our customers and see how they adopt finance, so excited to share some of the learnings from their experiences.
Okay, so today we're kind of going to break digital adoption best practices down into, we've got 5 areas we'll talk about. We'll talk about planning, we'll talk about evaluation, documentation, training and support, and finally about, the role of the user community. So why don't we start with planning, and let you start, Sim.
Okay. Good. When you look at planning, I think you have to look at certain areas. First, you have to look at the users, and especially call it the early adopters. I call it always the key users who will be part of your project team, because they should take care that the rollout of your digital solution, your cloud solution, is promoted, is covered. So, for example, a CFO, a CEO should also promote the rollout of a new product, because also you see a lot that new users are afraid of change because they're used to their old systems. They had systems which were, I always call it island solutions. Everybody was working on his own island, so they didn't have to work on integrated solutions. So I think if you are planning and you focus first on that, taking away all the fears, the fears for changes, that would be a big win. Then, of course, you also should start early in training especially your key users, your early adopters, so that they get a feeling and an idea of how the solution would look like, and then they can start exchanging their information already into the organization. So you get a bit, I would say, a good feeling that they get a bit knowledge already, and and then especially also look at the tooling you are offered. For example, when you're setting up your project plans, use tools like DevOps so that you structure your whole project. That, for example, you're working to start describing your requirements, your user stories, gather your requirements, and then start already with working on documentation, which is already there. Did they already describe their projects? Did their processes? Are there already work instructions? And start using them.
Okay, Sim, thank you. Khaled, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely echo everything Sim said. I think planning early is critical, but also being flexible with the plans, knowing that the plans are a guideline and sometimes you will encounter change. It's just important to reinforce, get together as a project team and know who owns what. So really being clear on the RACI, like who's responsible for what, who's accountable for what, just helps the whole planning process go smoothly, and any change management goes better that way.
Okay, thank you. Jenna.
Yeah, so definitely what they've both said as well. Totally agree with that. I think getting your key stakeholders, key users involved from an early point onwards is invaluable. Really good to have their feedback, and yeah, starting early whenever it's possible, but not getting hung up if you feel like it's too late. I think it's never too late to get started with it, and just really try to map out as much as you can and get the insight from the key users and subject matter experts on your team. It will make the planning and rollout go a lot smoother.
Yeah, and I think everybody made some great points there. And the projects that I've done over my career really where there was poor digital adoption at the end, almost every time we could go back to the plan, and there wasn't enough planning done around what are the change management, what's going to happen within the processes, within the people, within the technology, and how are we going to get them to move forward. So I think tools like ClickLearn help us, right from the start when we start to engage early in a project. So let's start looking at evaluation now. So evaluate and understand what D365 functionality is best delivered through an ISV offering. Khaled, why don't we start with you on that?
Yeah, sure thing. As an ISV, we're always happy to be asked about projects and be brought in early. I'll say that's a tip for customers just as much as it is helpful for ISVs, because then ISVs know their domain. So for example, if you are looking at subscription management and you're wondering if you should adopt the IP within D365 Finance or extend it within ISV, ask the ISVs that do that. They might be able to help you if you have the specific use cases. They will help guide you in your understanding and make sure that you're not missing out any point. I think it's critical to evaluate this because D365 Finance is very extendable, but at the same time, there is a lot of functionality that's really great within the solution. And sometimes you might be doing something a certain way in your old solution, and you might be hung up on the process. I would say always focus on what's the problem, what are you trying to solve, what's the use case, rather than we were doing this 5-step process and we have to do exactly the same 5-step process here. So don't get attached to that. You're adopting a new solution because you want better changes. So if there are things that are available in the solution, they just need some process management for you and some changes, be open to them. It's important to be open-minded.
Okay, thanks, Khaled. Sim, what would you like to add?
Well, what I would add, for example, if you look at the procure to pay process, because there are always a lot involved in processes, there you see that, for example, in the standard, there is no standard fit. Then you have to look for ISV offerings. When I'm looking at ISV offerings, I always say compare minimum 2-3 solutions and don't point one solution, simply compare them, look at your own organization, what fits best to your organization, because some companies have a simple workflow for handling their vendor invoices. Other one have a more complex workflow, and then you have to compare very easily your offerings and your ISV solutions. And the worst case, if all ISV solutions don't cover, I have always seen already created Power Apps for vendor invoice automation. So that could also work. And of course, Microsoft is now meanwhile also coming with a solution for that. So I think it's very important to cover and look very good and check it with your requirements.
Okay, great. Jenna, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I think it's really great to hear both of their inputs on that. I think with seeing all these different ISVs, both in F&O and other Dynamics platforms, it's been really interesting. Every customer that I speak with, I know that every business has some standard functionalities, but I know that everyone has some customizations that they need, specific features. So it's been really interesting to see all of the ISV solutions that people are using and how they're tracking and recording on that content, going cross application, using tools like ClickLearn. It's really cool to see when people I'm usually at the phase where they've already chosen a solution, so not so much in the evaluation, but really interesting to see what tools they've decided and how that's empowered their usage of F&O and other systems.
And if I can just add, we're dealing in the F&O market with a product like ClickLearn. So when we're dealing with a digital adoption solution and we're working with, tools that are built in something like F&O, those tools stay within that platform, right? And really with the modern cloud and the way we work, I'm in Teams, I'm in Office, I'm in SharePoint, and then I'm back in F&O and I might be over into CRM, right? So if we're using an ISV product like ClickLearn to map that digital adoption and record that digital adoption, the ISV can give you more functionality, especially if it's built outside the product. Like, Khaled and I have talked about this quite a bit. Like, you can build stuff within F&O, or you can build stuff with a Power App, but you're not going to get that sort of added functionality where that ISV has built this product 200 times for 200 companies, right? And they're going to continue to enhance that product, continue to build on that product, where if you're trying to, put together something in a custom build every time you want to change, that's something you're going to have to go in and change. And a lot of times, you get an ISV like Binary Stream as well, who uses ClickLearn. They're going to be able to, give you that digital adoption functionality right out of the box, where you're going to be able to, have some learning tools around the product as you go. So important to look at this in the area of digital adoption. So let's look at documentation. Documents right from the beginning of your project and not just at the end. And we'll start with Sim on this.
Well, you just mentioned ClickLearn. And if we are documenting processes, then we can start, of course, documenting our documentation already in ClickLearn in the early stage. So you can describe all your processes, and from there on build on creating work instructions, and then of course document your processes by using, of course, ClickLearn, recording your processes, and all steps are then described. But as said, you can then still edit your text. You can document all the information, and you can always start at an early stage. I always saw also projects where we, for example, had already created a template for documentation, so you already standardized the main processes, and then you can start using this project which you created in ClickLearn, copy it, and use those main processes, and then adjust it to the situation at a specific customer. That can also happen, of course. But I've seen also cases where, for example, partners created their whole templates inside ClickLearn, and then documented every step of their configuration inside ClickLearn as well. So, and then you have, of course, the templates which you can roll out very fast.
And, I've seen projects where we've even taken it a step further, where we document the old system first. So, we're going to replace this system. I'll use ClickLearn to record and document the old system. So as I'm building out functionality and we're sitting down, did we get everything? We can go back to the old recordings. Jenna, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, just exactly what Sim was saying. You need to make sure that when you choose a document, well, first of all, you need to make sure that you're going to be doing some documentation. That's very important, but make sure that you pick the right tool to be doing it with. I have definitely spoken with a lot of people in my role who have, spent 2 weeks, blocked off all this time, wrote some great documentation, but by the time they were actually finished with that, the process had already changed, the software had already changed. So things are constantly evolving. So you really need to find the right tool and process that's going to be able to keep up with that documentation need and change. So something that's going to be flexible and future proof and can kind of keep up with this evergreen software world that we're seeing now. So really important.
Thanks. Khaled?
Yeah, thank you all. Awesome points. The only thing I'll add is that people learn in different ways, and there's no reason documentation should not be in different mediums. So definitely a tool like ClickLearn is great for that. Because I think it's important to know that the documentation is for the users. And at the end of the day, adoption sometimes doesn't happen not because users want to shoot themselves in the foot and not use a solution that's good for them. it's either because it's too hard or they don't know how or there's missing information. So documentation, I think, is a critical part of adoption, and really is going to be the best way to create a sustainable adoption journey where you don't have information in people's heads. You get it out of there, put it on paper, and you can have something that's evergreen, like Jenna mentioned.
Okay, thank you. Let's go and talk a little bit about training and support. Make training and support collaterals available on demand and in local languages. I'm going to start with you, Sim.
Well, that's a very good one. You can offer training, of course, on site using the PowerPoint you created in ClickLearn, or, which is even better, use the self-service portal. I always say, give the new users access to the portal and use the training material you already created, because you recorded all the processes, so they can play through their own processes by doing, learning by doing. So give them a UAT environment. Here is ClickLearn. Here are your credentials, and start using and playing through all the processes. And then they do learning by doing instead of trainer who is on site showing them on a PowerPoint, and then they have to jump back to the screen, start doing again, and now they are hands-on. So you can use much more options. Local languages, of course, you know it already. You can you create simply one time your documentation, and ClickLearn offers you the possibility to translate it in any language you want. And that's also very quick, because I did a rollout myself in Germany, and we documented it in English, and then we simply translated it in German and in Dutch, because we also had a Dutch rollout. So the training material was covered in, maybe 30 minutes or something like that. I don't know. It depends, of course, how big your material is. But that's very, very handy to use. And also don't forget the testing, because you can also use it as a testing tool. So if you have a new release, simply test it. Go for the processes again. But Jenna can tell much more, I think.
Jenna, what would you like to add?
No, I think also just, building on that and echoing what Khalid said to the previous slide or previous points. Absolutely, the training needs to be made with the end user in mind, or the learner, which could be your colleagues, your customers, your team in general. So you just want to make sure that people can learn in the way that's best to them. ClickLearn has 7 learning formats that are produced from one recording. So if you're someone who's a visual learner, you have that opportunity. If you like to read through documents, you also have that opportunity. So I think just really making sure that people feel empowered and confident, and if they know that they have a good resource that they can find easily every time when they hear of a new process, or they have a new task they need to complete, they're not going to feel so anxious about it. They're just gonna jump to their learning portal and move along and have that kind of confidence with the tool, which drives adoption, I think.
Okay, thank you. Khalid.
Yeah, I'll say one thing that we've learned from massively large projects is usually it's best to segment it. It's like the old saying, like how you eat an elephant one bite at a time. So I think don't be afraid of doing like one localization at a time as well. If you have a very large global project and you're rolling it out across Europe and North America, maybe you want to start out with a test market like Germany, then roll it out more and more. You'll have some learnings along the way, but it'll also allow you to really do justice across each localization, rather than try to kind of skim through everything and not understand different challenges. Because just like how different people learn differently, it might be the case that each regional office or each localization does require a small change or different types of tools and collateral to help make adoption a reality. So keeping that in mind, not having one size fits all as the approach to this.
And if I could just add something here, like documenting a project and building the training materials in a project, a lot of times are separate people, right? So someone's over here, I'm documenting what we're building. I'm over here, I'm going to train everybody. And, it becomes very time consuming, very expensive for organizations. If they're using a product like ClickLearn, you're recording everything as you go. So when it's time to build those training materials, and I think Sim mentioned they built it in 30 minutes, right? That you can turn around training materials very quickly because everything is documented already in ClickLearn. So I think that can be a big, big help. Okay, so join your local online user community. Join your, local or online user community. Why don't we start with you, Sim?
Well, talking about user communities, you never will know everything, and you can always learn from your colleagues. And especially if you have a certain topics which is not documented very good in Microsoft in the Learn, then you can find back any information in the communities. And I must say some topics are really, especially for example, new features, and then colleagues start writing about that, then it's always a good topic to find in the communities. And also communities are very handy to exchange information, of course. So especially me as a freelancer, I'm part of a lot of communities, and I see then, your network grows, and then you can, for example, I want to work in a project, I need a supply chain consultant. Also, you can use the communities to exchange info about the customer and maybe create a lead for them. Yeah, very handy to use. Yeah.
Thank you, Khaled.
Thank you, Rick. Well, I'm all about the community. I think it's great to learn from peers. Often we don't even know that there's a challenge that we have to address. So just kind of surveying what people are talking about is important. And then the other thing that you can get with online communities, especially, is private early access previews. So if you are interested in a feature, we know that D365 Finance is constantly evolving. So trying to learn and exposing yourself to this new information can really help bring in any new info about new features, understand why this one might be better for you than others. We mentioned things like procurement, how Microsoft's adding some functionality. So I think it's always great to look at that, but also try to expose yourself to what competitors are doing, to what peers are doing, because that helps each company be its best self.
Okay, thank you. Jenna?
Yeah, I also think that there's such a huge value in finding a good user group community. I think you can learn, even if you're one of the most expert people on the team, sometimes it's just a small tip or trick or best practice, and that can help you view the tool in a different way, utilize it in a different way. So I think it's always something I would recommend to people, to try and find that user group community to join. At ClickLearn, we have an online community, and we sometimes host live community events. So I love to see all the back and forth in the community between our different users, helping one another, making really nice feature requests, all that type of stuff. So I think it's a great way to learn and share, very mutually beneficial for everyone involved, I think.
And I think you hit on something there, Jenna, because, Microsoft supplies us with some community and some support, for their product, and we can go there and ask questions and get answers to technical support. When we're working within a user group community, it's different. User group community, you're talking about other people that are, working with, siloed environments, working with hybrid cloud, working with different things that, the Microsoft people may not be accessing. So can anybody help me with a different type of problem? Also, I've seen, as an MVP, I've seen how the MVPs are involved with these communities. And, if you get a real problem, I've seen situations where 3 MVPs worked on somebody's problem for an hour for them, right? Didn't cost them anything because it was part of their community work. And, that's very expensive fix. But, being part of that community, we can see that, and we can grow with that. So I think that becomes an important part of, building digital adoption in the long term. Okay, so why don't we close things off? Jenna, why don't you tell us how ClickLearn can help customers and partners with digital adoption?
Yeah, so happy to do that. ClickLearn is a really powerful tool to help with your documentation and ultimately to drive digital adoption of your solution. So it really I would like to think of it as like a fully formed solution here. So it's going to help people at all phases of their journey with documentation, from making it very easy to create. So when you make one recording on ClickLearn, you automatically have 7 different formats. So we've kind of talked about that already, but you have the videos, the written documentation, so that you're empowering the learner on the other side to learn in the way that fits them best. This also goes with localization, so you can make your format or your content available in tons and tons of different languages. You can also have, different languages, local languages with a standardized user interface language, so you can mix and match as you see fit. And beyond that, the solution also offers easy way to, we call it replay as the functionality, but easy way to keep your content updated when systems roll out new updates, changes. It can be automatically updated for you, so you don't have to start again from scratch a week from now. So it really helps to keep your content future-proof. And then in the long term, kind of leads into the long-term solution of it all. So we can also host the content when you are a user of ClickLearn. You also have access to our many different ways to deploy and host your content if you want to. So really flexible what you can do with what you've created there. And yeah, just really try to support people beyond the software. We have a really active team here. So we work with every customer that's using ClickLearn to help them use the tool in the best way to fit their project. And just, we see training and documentation as an ongoing process for every tool now, or an ongoing project. So we try to make our tool to suit that. So a solution that's going to help you not just for your launching day, but keep supporting your end users many years to come.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Jenna. And I always like to add, first time I saw ClickLearn was at a user group meeting, and people were coming into my classroom. I was teaching project management, and they were saying, "Did you see ClickLearn? Did you see ClickLearn?" I said, "No, what's a ClickLearn?" And I went and saw it, and I'm thinking, the magic of ClickLearn. Press a few buttons, create your documentation, create your training materials, and you could see how excited the users were. So I want to thank the panelists today. It was a great conversation. Hope we'll get back to you at some point in the future, talk more about digital adoption. So thanks and have a great day.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.